let's launch Eclipse. Hello. Okay, so launch Eclipse, and then let's create a brand new project for today. So of course you can keep your own version of solution. You can compare that later on. Okay, so now close that. So let's create for one for today. It's gonna be week 10. So new Java projects. And then I'm just gonna say CSE114 week 10 Lab1. Actually, you can just call it lab. We're gonna have only one lab today, this week, just one. Let me just make sure we are really recording. That's good. Okay, so now let's see what we should do here. So first of all, let's see what classes we need. Let's create all the classes first. So remember, we have at the top level there we got banking system. Let's create all the classes first before we do the attributes. So we got banking system. Okay, that's the first class. And we under banking system we got clients. Okay. Under clients we got accounts. New class account. Okay, under accounts we have transaction. Okay, transaction, and then we also have a banking system tester, which has a main method. Banking system tester with a main method. Yeah, that's actually pretty much what you got from last time, right? So let's do the attributes very quickly. So now that we got all the classes here, so let's start from the top. So now, as you can see from there, we'd say a banking system has a number of bank clients. So a number of simply means you got an array. So you have clients array, and then you can say clients, like that. Okay, sorry, that's a typo there. I'll fix that. Okay, clients over here, and since it's an array, so we're going to somehow declare an attribute to keep track. So let me just say counter, just easy to type. So this is going to record how many clients we have so far. So let's first of all go to the, let's also declare a constant here, okay? Final int, and then let's say maximum capacity. Let's say maximum number of clients. Let's say if that's equal to 10, for example. So we're going to use this constant here to initialize the array. Okay. So let's go to the constructor, the banking system, which does not take any parameter. We're going to do two things. So first of all, we're going to initialize the counter to be 0, but it's going to be he's going to have the default value 0 anyway. So I'll just do that explicitly. And also, we're going to initialize the clients array. Clients is assigned to new clients array. You can say maximum client number of clients. Okay, let me just maximize that. So far so good? Just about initializing the array. Good. Just standard operations. And then we're going to have a mutator method to tell us to enable us to add new clients. So now we can do void. It's a mutator method add clients, and then we have, let's say, C. Okay, so now we can simply do. So now this should be rather easy for you. So counter value is assigned to C, and also increment the counter value afterwards. Okay, remember the second last thing we talked about in the class today was that this variable here must be non-static. It must be a non-static variable. If it happens to be static, you actually run into issues like what we discussed in the class today. The slides are already on the web. You can refer to it to them to study for your victim. Okay, so we can also define different accessor methods. For example, you can say, so accessor return the number of clients in the system. So now you want to take a minute to see how you can define this accessor method here. For example, so far I got Bill and Steve. And then if I say banking system object, let's say S. If I say S dot, there's a get number of clients, it should return back to me 2. Okay? That should be a very easy method to increment. You should return a counter value. Okay, so you should really try to get used to how to define the signature of your methods. So this is going to return integer get number of clients. Okay. So now we can say return the counter value. Very easy. Okay. I think that's about it for the banking system class. Just very easy, just to see how you can put the clients into the system. We're going to do the testing in a moment. Once we got the client, account, then transaction written down, we can get there. Okay, so now let's go to the next level, which is about the clients. According to your description, we'd say each client has a unique client ID. So we'd say, let's say the client ID. Let me make it integer. I'm going to show you different, slightly different version from the class slide today. So let's say ID. Okay, ID. You can say ID of the format. Let's say C1, C2, and C3, etc. Okay, so somehow the ID is not just a pure number. It's going to be C standing for clients, and then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 to actually distinguish between clients. C3, yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, good. Yeah, good. Okay, so let's try what we learned from today. What we learned from today was you can actually declare a global counter for the client class to say every time if you try to create a new client object, you're going to use that global counter value as the ID. And then you can increment that every time you create a new object. Okay, that's all we can do. Let's try that. So let's do this. We can say static integer, okay, and then let's say just say counter, global counter, global ID counter. So just to be more, yeah. You mean here? No, we don't have to. That's why I'm showing you something different. Yeah, I'll show you. Very good question. I'm going to show you. Of course you can, but in this case, you actually got more flexibility about how the ID can look like. Well, what I want to say is, in the string ID, part of that is going to be the unique integer. Yeah, we're going to see that. Okay, so we got this global counter here. So independent from instances. Okay, so this counter here does not belong to any of the instances. It belongs to the class. Okay, also for each client, let's go on. So that's the part. ID, first name, last name, telephone number, address. Okay, so we got string, first name, string, last name, also string, mailing, I'll just say address, and string, phone number, and also a list of bank accounts. So it's gonna be an array. So an array, so we're gonna say of account, an array, accounts. Okay, and because that's an array, so we have to somehow allow any user to add new account objects into it. So now we can say integer to see how we can keep track. I'll just say counter, just consistent as in the banking system we also say counter there, right? Okay, so also counter here, and let's see how the constructor should look like. Let's say in the constructor here we don't actually pass anything. You can set all the other attributes later for using the mutator method. And this time I can show you how you can generate mutator methods from Eclipse. It's going to be very useful. I'll show you in a moment. Okay, so now let's first of all define the constructor. Clients, so now just that, doesn't take anything. And now we're going to say ID is assigned. So for the global counter here, so now for static variable, you may assign some initial value to the over here to the static variable. Let's say we always start with 1. Okay, always start with 1. Otherwise, it's going to be 0. So now when you say ID is assigned to global counter, so the very first client object will get ID 1, the very first one. Okay, so now because remember ID is actually a string, so what we can do is as follows. We can say C plus. So that's where the so now we are trying to say what Java will do to say whatever this integer value is, for example, is 1 or 2, and then concatenate that with the string with letter C. Okay, that's called the concatenation. Okay, so somehow the all the client ID is going to have this common prefix C, but the number part is going to distinguish between them. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And of course, you got to make sure after each instantiation, you have to increment the counter. So you would say global ID counter plus plus. Any questions so far? Okay, we're going to test that in a moment. Let's test that right away. So for first name, last name, address, phone number, oh, one more thing. We also need to initialize the array. Let's do a similar thing here. Let's say final int. So let's say maximum number of accounts. So let's say just have the same number, doesn't matter. We used to say 10. You can make it 10 as well, doesn't matter. So now in the constructor there, you will also say the accounts array is assigned to new account array. So maximum number of accounts. Okay, that's how you initialize the array. Let's try the tester.
What would be counter?
Which one?
We have a counter at the 13.
Oh, the counter, yes, you can explicitly assign that to 0 as well. Good point. Yeah, this one is really not mandatory because it's going to get default value 0 anyway, but you can do that. Okay, so now, like that. Okay, let's try the tester to make sure the account ID actually works. Okay, remember ID is the non-static variable, the attributes. So let's try. Okay, let's try maybe to create 2 accounts. Let's say account S16 is assigned to new account. No parameter. You see, over here we are not passing any ID number here. It's going to be managed automatically. Let's say account S16 is assigned to new account. Okay, again, account S16 new account. Okay, so now we got 3 accounts. So now you can do system.out.println. So you can do, let's say, do 3 things. ID for ACC1 is ACC1 dot ID. I believe it's called ID. So why would it not work? Let's see, clients here. Oh, that's client, sorry. That's not account. That's my bad, my bad. Yeah, so this should be client, not account. What we just did was clients, not the account. Okay, let me just fix that. We'll do account in a moment in a similar way. So can we just change this to clients? Okay. I was wondering about that. Okay, clients. But the account will be done in a similar way. We'll do that in a moment. Okay, so here can we just say client 1. Okay. Client 1, client 2, and client 3. So here with the ID for client 1 will be client1.id. Okay, now it works. Okay. So we're gonna copy this line here and make sure we also can print the ID for client 2 and 3. ID for client 2 and 3. So here will be 2 and 3. Okay. So now let's try that. If you have this, run here, you'll see that ID for client 1 is C1, and then C2 and C3, they're unique. Because somehow the static variable, the counter, is not working globally. Every time when you're trying to call the constructor of the client class, it is going to increment the global counter by 1. So every time when you're trying to create a new instance of the clients, it's going to use the new value, the updated value of the counter. Okay, any question about this? How we manage that? Okay. Okay, very good. So now let me show you another thing. This has something to do with the this keyword that we learned today. If you go back to the client class, let's say, well, since the constructor of the client class takes no parameter there. So now, of course, somehow you need to define the mutator methods for first name, last name, address, and phone number, for example. That's for these four. But if you don't want to type them out, there's a way to generate them. Okay, let's see how we can do that. The way you do that is by selecting these 4 attributes. And then you can right click and then go to source. And then you can go to generates, getters, and setters. Can you see that? Should I do it again? Okay. If you select these 4 attributes here, first name, last name, address, and phone number. Okay. Right click and then go to source. And then you will see the option there called generates, getters, and setters. So getters are accessors, setters are mutators. If you go there, and now you can actually choose which attributes you want to generate. Let's say I want to generate for, you can see they even give you the signature of the method you can generate. Let's say we want to do for address, we want to generate for set address. Okay, it's going to generate a method called set address of type string. Right, that's the mutator method. Let's say address and also first name. I want to set the first name, and for last name, I also want to set the last name, and for phone number, I also want to set the phone number. Okay, so now where should we put all these mutators once it's generated? Let's say we want to put it at the very back, so maybe after the constructor here. Okay, so now just say OK. So now they're at the very end. Yeah, don't worry about the public keyword over here. Okay, you don't have to worry about them. We'll talk about them maybe at the end of the course. Can you actually generate the settings? Okay, so now let's have a look. You can see, for example, the set first name in line number 22. So now the parameter name is called first name, which is exactly the same as the attribute name. And look what Eclipse does for you. It says that in line number 23, this first name is assigned to first name, which we explained in the class today. This here represents the context options that you're going to use to call this method. So that's used to disambiguate between the first name as the attributes and the first name as the parameter name. Is that clear? Okay, that's how we use this keyword. So now we have the first name, last name, etc. You can just make sure you save them. So if you go back to tester, of course, now you can say things like maybe client1.set first name, for example, it's already there. So you can say maybe Jim. Client1.set last name. Last name, let's say Davis, etc. That's what you can do. I just do 2 for you here, just as an example. Okay, that's about the client class. And later on, for the account class and for the transaction class, will be kind of similar. Okay, we'll see. Let's now move on to another class. Let's just double check the client. It looks fine. Yep, so we do have, we haven't got the add account yet. So if we go back to client class, so you got to define a mutator here. So say void, and then add account. And then you're going to create the account. account, and then let's say ACC. Okay, so now you're gonna say, I'm gonna take a minute to finish this rather than me typing for you. I'll give you a minute to see how you can complete this fragment here. How do you add the accounts objects into the array? So there are 2 lines we need to type, right? I'll let you finish that. Not this one should be rather small. Okay, so now let's see. So you should say that accounts at counter is assigned to ACC and counter plus plus. So now I would like to assign a mental exercise for you. Okay, so now you can see that we try to initialize the array of the accounts over here in the constructor, which means for this particular clients, when we first instantiate the clients, we try to initialize its accounts array to be size maybe 10 in this case. So now what if I cut this line here? So let me put it here. Would it work if we cut a line from the constructor to here? Okay, if we put this line here instead, so which means we try to initialize the accounts array whenever we try to add account. Okay, so question for you, would it work? If it doesn't, how does it not work? Okay, that's an exercise for you. I believe that's one of the questions I put on last semester's midterm. You actually see that in the midterm question. Okay, think about it, and then you can discuss with me, maybe on Wednesday, during the office hour. Okay, so that's about the add account. So I think we are done for now for client class. Let's move on to the account. Okay, maybe we'll add more methods a little bit later, but let's just get the basic ones done. So now for the account, let's see. Each account, again, has a unique account ID. Let's do the same exercise here. So static int, let's say global account ID, initially 1, let's say. Okay, so now you can see why we actually said the string ID is assigned to be, or string ID and attributes. We actually made this ID as a string. So for account, we can say ACC1, ACC2, ACC3, rather than just 1, 2, and 3. If we simply say 1, 2, and 3, we may just clash with the IDs of the clients, like 1, 2, and 3. So we always have some prefix there to distinguish. Okay. Okay, so now there is another useful, that's okay, I will mention about that later. So now we got ID, we got global counter. So now let's see what we have. Each account has an ID. It's an associated owner. So owner, which will be just another client. I know some of you actually thought about using string as the type of the owner. So in this case, the best information you can store might just be the ID of the client owner. But that's not good enough, because given the string ID, you still have to find out what is the associated objects of the clients. So let's say, if I want to know what's the phone number of the owner, then what should you do? You have to first use the owner ID to find out who that owner is, and then find out his telephone number. But if I simply make this a client objects, you can simply say owner dot phone number, right? That's what you can do. So using a client objects type is much better. Okay, let me put it here. Here, using a client type is much better than using a string type. So, for example, to know the phone number of the owner, we can simply write owner dot phone number in the case where it is declined as a client, right? That's sort of the justification for using clients as the order type. Okay, we have owner, and what else do we have? Okay, owner, and then a history of transactions. Okay, so now we also have a history. So now history, although history is not really a number of, but it suggests that history should be a number of transactions, right? So now history should also be an array. So now it's going to be, again, a transaction array, and then the history. Okay, so now we're also going to have a counter here, integer counter, to keep track of how many transactions are there in the history of this particular account. Okay, let's define the constructor. Oh, we can also have a constant here. Final int maximum number of transactions. Let's say also 10. Okay, you can, of course, you can change the value of the constant if you like. Okay, so now let's see what we can do in the constructor. So we're going to say account. Over here, we can say, first of all, we're going to say ID is assigned to global counter ID. After that, oh, forgot. So let's say the common prefix for account would be ACC plus. Okay, whatever ACC and ACC1, ACC2, etc. And then we're gonna increment the global counter here, global counter ID plus plus. So it's guaranteed the next one is gonna get a higher value of the counter. And after this, we can also initialize the counter to be 0. And we can also initialize the array of history, new transaction. So it's going to be the maximum number of transactions, right? Oops, no. Okay, I'll let you finish typing first. So far so good? We're going to repeat the same, repeating the same pattern for every class, okay, because they got similar structure. Okay? We haven't got into the deposit withdrawal yet, so those are the more interesting part to implement. Well, but we'll get there. Okay, so now I would like you to take a minute or 2 minutes to implement the method for adding a new transaction. Okay, so now you can say void add transaction team. Okay, can you just implement this method now? I'll give you a minute to complete this. And somehow this method here will be used as a helper method for deposit and withdrawal. We'll see that somehow. Okay, so here you can say the history, the counter value assigned to t, and then counter plus plus. Very easy. Again, think about what if we put the following line here, which is if we try to put this line here in this method here, then what's going to happen? Think about that. similar question. Similar. Let's see, if I give you this question in the midterm, you gotta explain precisely how wrong it is. That's something you have to think very carefully. Of course, in the slide, I show you a different issue. So in the slides today, I actually explained in the slides that if you actually change the type of this counter here, if I make it static, then it is not going to work, right? That's what we explained in the class today. You can go over the slides and let me know if you've got any problem. But it should be non-static. That's my point. Okay? But the counter here should be static, okay? Because that's a global counter. Yeah, I kind of try to apply, different pieces, from what we learned in the lecture together to make the application. Okay, we got add transaction here, and we got, let's say, yeah, I think that'll be it. Yeah, we don't need any particular. What about set owner? We can just implement it ourselves. Let's say void set owner. Let's say client owner. So now, if I say owner, is that right? How do I fix that? Where should I put this to? Left? Very good. Thank you. So, what I gotta say is, yeah, by the way, you can see that over here, the eclipse even give you a warning to say this has no effects. So what you should do should be this.owner is assigned to owner. Okay? Of course, our previous approach, you just say maybe new owner. And then you would say owner is assigned to new owner. That will also work. So you can try both. Okay, so now we have done 3 classes already. So let's go to the last one, which will be the transaction. And after that, we can do our deposit and withdrawal and also get balance eventually. Let's go to the transaction class. Why don't we try this? Try something here. Can we also define a accessor method here? Let's say accessor return the number of transactions of this particular account. Okay, that one should be easy. Just return the value of the counter. Okay, for this one, we can say integer get number of transactions. And you wouldn't take any parameter. Just return the counter value. Okay. And let's just go back to tester and make sure things are working before we move on. So we go back to tester here. So now we got clients there. So let's create accounts. Account S16 is assigned to new account. Okay. Account S16 new account here. And now account S16 is assigned to new, let's say also 3 accounts. I would like to have 4. ACC4. Okay, 4 accounts. And now I would like to know their IDs. System.out.println. You can say ID for ACC1 plus ACC1.ID. That's one line. And can we just copy this into 4 lines? 1, 2, 3, 4. ACC1, 2, 3, and 4. ACC1, 2, 3, and 4. And just make sure we got unique IDs for each account. Okay, let's launch the program. Okay, we do have ACC1, ACC2, 3, and 4. You can see all the IDs for the account has a common prefix, ACC. That's why we make it a string rather than integer. Just just clearer, where you actually see the output from the in the console. Okay, so now I would like to, before I try to add the accounts, can we just set the names for the clients? Okay, quickly. So let's say we just say client 1 should be Jim Davis, client 2 dot set first name. What about, let's not worry about last name, okay? Just first name, that'll be enough. Let's say Jim, let's say Alan, and Mark, let's say. Okay, so C1, C2, and client 1, 2, and 3. So we got Jim, Alan, and Mark. 3 clients. So we got 3 clients and 4 accounts. Okay, so let's see how we can play with them. Okay. Okay, let's see, first of all. Let's say right after we set a first name for the clients. Okay. So now I would like you to try the following output from the console to see if you can do that. I would like to have something like this. In the console, I like to see, for example, you want to see, let's say in the console here, you would say, so the first name, Jim is the owner of, oh, actually just a client, sorry, just a client without any ID. So just a client first. Client, Jim, has how many accounts? Let's say currently, Jim has 0 accounts because we haven't added any account to Jim. Has 0 okay. Okay, let's say this. Client Jim has ID C1 and 0 accounts. Okay, that's the output I would like to see in the console. So basically, somehow we can see this comes from the first name of the client objects, and this here comes from the ID, and this one comes from the number of accounts. So you're gonna call the corresponding accessor methods or attributes. Try to see if you can do this print out statement here in line number 17, around there. Okay. So you're gonna make 3 method calls. You can split that into different print statements. You don't have to do a big one. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So for example, you might say, oh, do yours first, and I'll show you the better way to do it. Okay, I'm pretty sure you try to make a different method. But I want to show you the way where you can just define a helper method in the client class. So whenever you want to get description about a client, you can call that particular accessor method to get a string description. That's a better way to do it. Okay. Imagine that we want to get a description for Jim, Alan, and Mark. So you don't have to repeat the same code 3 times. So that's sort of the idea. Okay, let me show you how you can do this. If you go to the client class over here, so there is a method you can define. So it's called the, let's say this. You just say string, let's say get client.get string description, like that. Okay, I want to get a string description of the current client as a string value. Okay, so now I'm going to declare a local variable here, string description. I'll just say initially just empty. Eventually, I'm going to return the description. Okay, let's see how we can accumulate this description string and then return that eventually. So now here we can say description is assigned to, you can say plus equal. Let's say concatenation. Description is assigned to description plus. So plus equal, you can say clients plus, so Jim here will be the first name. First name, and then you can say that, and then you can say, keep saying description plus equal, so the same string. So you're gonna have a, okay, first name space has ID plus ID. Okay, and then description plus equal as ID and how many accounts. So number of, I'll just counter, has how many accounts. Okay, so you can see we're trying to get access to first name, ID, and also the counter. So we're getting 3 things from the current class. And then we try to get all this information here within the get string description method, which means we can reuse this method for as many times as we like.
Why do we have the plus sign with?
Oh, the plus sign here simply means, for example, let's say, let me give you one example here. If you say S, string S, is assigned to, let's say, Sunni with a space. So now you can say S plus equal, let's say, Korea. So this is as if you wrote S is assigned to S plus Korea, which is going to accumulate Korea to this string over here, right? That's exactly what we're doing. So you just don't want to write a very long line with so many clauses. There's a better way to write it. Okay, so now let's see how we can use this method. If you go back to your, do you think the light is okay? Should I turn off the lights? Or you think that's okay? That's okay, right? Okay, good. Let me just keep that. Just easier for me to read on the paper. Okay, let's go back to tester here. So now we can say system.out.println. Now you can say client1.get string description. Right? You can see we define all the relevant methods in the client class. So now we can reuse them by calling the methods. Okay, of course, you can also do basically calling the same method, but you're gonna change the context object to be client2. Okay, which is going to still access the ID, counter, and also first name, but with the different context objects. And finally, we get another one for client3. Okay, so now let's have a look. If you launch this, you're gonna see that client Jim has ID C1 and 0 accounts initially. And client Alan has ID C2 and 0 accounts. Mark has ID C3 and 0 accounts. So now we're going to add accounts into these 3 client objects and see how the string descriptions are going to change. That's the code. Of course, the ID shouldn't change, but just the number of accounts should be changing. Okay, let's do that. So now let me write some comments here. Let me just say that system.out.println. So now you can say that C1 adds, let's say client, okay, client1 adds account. So that's ACC1. Okay, and we're going to do that so you can see exactly what's going to happen. client1 dot add account ACC1. Okay, and we're going to call the same get string description on the same context object immediately and see how that's going to change. So now if you do this, so now we used to call the same method on the same context objects, but that's before ACC1 was added to the to client's account array. But now after we have added the account into the array, we're going to try to see if anything might change. There should be something that has been changed. If you launch the program, you're gonna see that client 1 has added account ACC1. So now Jim has ID C1. That part hasn't changed, but now has 1 accounts, which is ACC, right? Which is ACC1. Following so far? Okay, we're just building up. Very good. Okay, so can I actually have you do the following? Okay, so now I would like you to do something similar. So now I want you to do the following. So let's say add ACC2 to client 2's accounts, add ACC3 and ACC4 to client 3's accounts. Go for it. Okay, and of course, print out client 2, and then print out client 3. Okay, I'll give you maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes to do this. I also see the console output to convince yourself that's correct. I'll be back, just get some water. Okay, let's see how we can do that. So let's say for the first task, how do you add ACC2 to client 2's accounts? So we're going to say client 2 dot add account ACC2. That one's easy. Now, how do we print the updated description for client 2? You can say, well, let me show you a slightly wordy way. You can say string C2 description to capture the value first. So you can say client 2 dot get string description, and then you can say system.out dot println. Just a different way of doing things. And then you would say C2 description. Okay, and now let's do how do you add ACC3 and ACC4. So now you would say client 3 dot add accounts ACC3, client 3 dot add account ACC4. And now how do you print out client number 3? So now let me just use the simpler way. System.out dot println client 3 dot get string description. Of course, you can if you find this method a little bit too wordy, you can simplify that to get description. And there's a very easy way to do this. Let me show you now. For example, you can select this method here, just double click. So now it's been selected. Right click and go to refactor. And then go to rename. Okay, I'll do it again. Let's say I would like to rename this method here. I can simply just right click. Oh, sorry, not right click, sorry, double click on the method so it will be selected. And then right click. And then go to refactor. And then go to rename. Once you do that, so now you can now just get rid of the string. So you'll be just get description instead. And hit enter. And make sure you save the file. And now it has been done for you. So now if you go back to the client class, you will see that it has been renamed to get description. It's been done systematically for you. So you don't have to manually to go to several classes to rename that. So it's done for you. A very, very handy feature in Eclipse. Okay, good. Let's go back to banking system tester here. So now let's just launch the program and see. So you can see, so now after that we got 1, 1, and 2, right? Because for our client C2, C3 we got 2 accounts. Okay. So now, of course, for better comments, you may just want to do things like this. So we used to say client 1 adds account ACC1. So copy that line. So right before we do client 2 that add account ACC2, we can say client 2 adds account ACC2. Okay, that's one place. And then you can go to here. You can say client 3 adds account ACC3. Here you can do another line, client 3 adds account ACC4. Just do some comments, just do some output to the console every time you did something. Okay, if you launch the program, you're gonna see that. You can see after client 1 adds the account ACC1, so Jim now has account 1 accounts. And after client number 2 adds account ACC2, now he also has 1 account. And now after client 3 adds ACC3 and ACC4, now he has 2 accounts, right? Okay, any question about the accounts over here before we get to transaction? Are we okay so far? Good, very good. Okay, let's get to transaction here. For the transaction here has an ID again. Let's do it. Can I just let you implement the string ID and global counter business here? I'll give you maybe 3 to 4 minutes to do that, and then before I do that for you. Okay, try that. Of course, the constructor of the transaction now has also no parameter. But the good thing is this is the point to stop. So we don't have any more array attributes. So transaction has no array attributes. If you want to refer to the description, let me show you. So, 014 Labs banking system. Oh, not here. Here. So, if you can recall the details from there, you can see that the okay, you can see that over there. I'll show you. Each transaction has an ID, a type, and also the amount of money involved. So there's no array here. Okay, so there's no like a history or accounts or client. There's no. So this is the point where we got a very simple object with no array. And then we're going to implement each method one by one. Probably just do some of them today, and then we'll leave the rest to Wednesday. Okay, try to do the static variable and see how you can use that static variable to make sure you assign unique string IDs to each transaction objects. So that's the most important thing to learn up to now. Okay, maybe another 2 minutes, and then I'll also do that on the screen. Okay, let's see. If we go back to Eclipse here, so now let's first of all declare the global counter that belongs to the transaction class, not transaction objects. Static integer global ID counter. Let's say we'll also start with 1. And also each transaction ID is going to be a string ID. And then also we have things like, what do you have? Each transaction has an ID, a type, and also the amount of money that's involved. So we can say that the type. So let's just make a character. So it can be either D for deposit and W for withdraw. Or you can make it a Boolean type. You can say it's deposit. Either if that's true, that means it's deposit. If that's false, that's a withdrawal. It's up to you. Type. You can say D for deposit and W for withdrawal. Okay. So now we got a type, also the amount. Let's say the amount is double, because usually when you talk about money, it should be a double. Okay, and then let's say the amount of transaction, it can be either deposit or withdraw. So now, what about the transaction constructor? Let's say in this case here, whenever you want to create a transaction, of course we don't have to worry about the ID. It's going to be taken care of internally by using the global counter. But let's say we also want to specify the type and the amount. So we don't want to set later. So let's say character type double amount. And can you just take 30 seconds to complete the rest for me? How do you assign the type and amount to the attributes? It's not the ID actually, so just do all the assignments. I want you to set the type to the type, amount to the amount, and also set our ID to be the new ID, and then make sure you update the counter as well. That's what I want you to do. Okay, I'll let you do that for 1 minute, and then I'll go over that. Okay, so we can say this dot type, right, is assigned to type, and this dot amount is assigned to amount, and we can say ID is assigned to the current value for the global counter, and then we're going to increment the global counter. Okay, of course it's going to be a string. So let's say every transaction is going to be T. So T1, T2, T3, etc. So these are the 4 things you got to take care of for the transaction. Apparently there's no array, so you don't have to initialize any array. You don't have to. Okay, any question about the transaction so far? Okay, very good. So now we got about maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. So now I would like to try a few methods. We may not try all of them, but let's just try a few, and then we'll complete the rest. Because I do want to do another example with you about equals method. Maybe let's do it today, so we can complete the rest of the banking system on Wednesday. Let's see, if you refer back to the description of the problem statement here, let's say here. You see, given a valid account ID, our clients may deposit money into that particular account. Okay. Okay, so now, let's say this. I will just help you with that. So now, so somehow we want to do deposit and withdraw. Okay. So now if you go to, let me just recap what we have done. At the top level, we got banking system. And then on the banking system, we got clients, individual clients. On the clients, we got the account. And for each account, we also got transaction. So these are the 4 classes we have. So now, according to the problem statement there, it says that given a valid, or can you read it? Like that. So given a valid account ID, a client may deposit money into that account, which adds a new deposit transaction to that account's list of transactions. Okay, you can see the subject over here is the clients. So this suggests that this method here should appear in the client class, right? So we say that a client over here, for example, if I say client 1, according to what is said over there, clients may deposit money into that account given the ID. So when you say client 1 dot deposit, and over here you have to say the ID of the account. You might say, for example, ACC1, and then you can say maybe $200. That's what's suggested by the problem statement there. Okay, that's how you can use it to say, well, this particular client wants to deposit into the account with this particular ID and with this much money. Okay, that's exactly what is suggested by the problem statement here. Okay, can you see that over here? Let me help you a little bit. So it's very important for you to read that properly. Okay, I'm just copying that. Okay, read that sentence again, please. So given a valid account ID, a client may deposit money into that account, which adds a new deposit transaction to that account's list of transactions, right? So we're saying that for a particular client, we can somehow call a method, maybe called deposit or withdraw. And then for this particular operation here, we're going to say what the account it is. What's the account that you want to deposit into? And what's the amount? Okay. So now let's draw some diagram here and see how that works. Let's say if you have, let's say, a client over here, let's say client 1, that points to this object here, client objects, and it has an attribute called accounts. Okay, it is pointing to an array of size 10 somehow. So 0, 1, 2, all the way to 9 as an array of accounts. Okay, so now for each account, let's say if the first account happens to be the one with ACC1. So for the account, we got ID and also transactions. So ID, let's say this is ACC1. That's the ID. Okay. So somehow we have to locate where the account object is in the array. And once we find it out, we have to somehow change the transaction array over there. So over there you got a attribute called history. And over there you got history array. And that's also size 10. You also got a diagram from me last time, right? You can also refer to it to actually make sure you know what that really means. Okay, so now, if I say client.deposit ACC1 200, first of all, I need to find out where ACC1 is. It is here. It may not be here. It may be somewhere later in the array. Once I find it out, I'm going to add ACC1. I'm going to add a transaction objects into this transaction array over here. So let me just write it here. So I'm going to somehow have a transaction object here. And the transaction object is going to have the ID, is going to have the type. It also has the amount. Okay, because I know I'm trying to call the deposit method. So now the type should be just D, deposit. And ID will be automatically generated by the constructor. I don't need to worry. And for the amount, it's going to be 200. That's kind of the idea on the diagram. I'll have to see how to do that in Java. Okay, so I think just by doing this method today will be enough. Okay? And then we're gonna go a little bit more complicated on Wednesday. Okay, so please just study this method alone before Wednesday. Okay, let's go slowly. You're gonna see the big picture for this. Okay, yeah, is that good? Okay, otherwise you're gonna, yeah, of course you're gonna study for that and come back to me for help. Okay, let's do this and try to see how we can do that. So let's go back to Eclipse now. So if we go to the client class over here, so now somehow we want to define a method here. Let's say, I just made a comments first. Deposit certain sum, amount of money into a particular account for these clients. When I say particular, I mean you have to give the ID of the accounts. Okay. Okay. Let's see. So it's a little bit like a get method in the birthday book to say I want to find Alan's birthday, right? So now we can do things like this. We can say it's going to deposit into it, so we can just say void. It is not going to return anything. So void, and then deposit. And then we're going to deposit given the string account ID. Okay, ACC ID, for example, account ID. And then the amount. Let's say double. Okay. So now I would like you to think about how to do this. I will write out a comment for you. Check to see if ACC ID is an existing account. First of all, you got to go through the array and make sure the ACC ID is really a valid account. Make sure that, if not, print out an error message to say this account ID doesn't exist for the clients. If yes, it does exist, add a transaction of type D. Okay, because we are defining the deposit method into the clients. Into. So let me do a little bit more detail. So if yes, first find out the account objects with ID, ACC ID. Find out the objects of that, and then add a transaction of type into that account object. Okay, that's what you should do. Okay, I'll leave that here. And then why don't you try that for, do you want to do this practice? Maybe I'll give you a solution on Wednesday. That might be better. Okay, so you can try. So I really want you to try. That's basically what you gotta do. And now, when you want to say check to see if the ACC ID is an existing account, you know what? Because later on, we're also going to define a method called withdrawal. It is going to share this common first step. So you may want to make this first step here a helper method. You may want to, which I'll show you on Wednesday anyway, how you can try. Okay, so I would say we'll stop here. We'll stop earlier today. So that will be your homework before Wednesday. Try to finish this. And then on Wednesday, we're going to continue from here. And then we're going to do the deposit, withdraw, get balance, and transfer. These methods, they will be more complicated. So I would suggest before Wednesday, try to get yourself familiar with all the structure over here. And also review the diagram that I gave to you last time. Okay, hopefully we can finish the this case study on Wednesday. And then that'll be the coverage for the midterm, all the lab exercises. Okay, so yeah, we're done.